Hi, I'm Brett Hansen, creator and director of Hansen Education Services. If you find this podcast helpful, please subscribe, tell other everyday AI users, and consider writing a short review. Thanks. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits home for anyone who has ever looked for a job or tried to hire the right person for their team. We're looking at a report published just a few days ago on March 30th, 2026, titled, What is Algorithmic Bias in Hiring? A Simple Guide, written by Jeffrey Pohl and published by Warden AI. We need to start by talking about the myth of the neutral machine. So we've been told for years that humans are biased, that we have what we sometimes call gut feelings that are often just prejudices in disguise. And it's true, we do. So one solution that was suggested was to let the machines do it, to let objective machines filter out or compensate for our bias. Let an algorithm, which doesn't care about one's gender or race or age, look at the data and find the best fit. But as Jeffrey Pohl points out in the Warden AI report, we're finding that the promise of objectivity is frequently just a mask for what he calls structural persistence. Honestly, we thought technology would remove human error, but instead, in many cases, it has simply codified it. And when you codify something, it's even harder to identify and control because it becomes embedded in the bureaucracy. Now, the report highlights the Amazon lesson, a famous failure where the huge and very powerful company tried to build a tool to find top-tier talent. The AI looked at 10 years of successful resumes. Because those resumes were predominantly from men, the AI taught itself that being a man was kind of a requirement for success. It started penalizing resumes that mentioned women's soccer or women's college. And no, it wasn't a glitch. It's wrong to think of it as a glitch in the code. It was the AI being too good at its job. It found a pattern in our past and turned it into a rule for our future. And this is historical bias. So if your company's past was skewed, the AI's future will be too. If you're trying to get a job at a company whose past was skewed, then it's going to affect you. So we aren't really hiring for the future in this case. We're just automating the past. So we have to look into the reality of what we call the black box and figure out why this matters to the everyday user. Because as of early 2026, the statistics are staggering. According to recent data, 87% of companies now use AI in their recruitment process. So if you're a job seeker, you need to understand that nearly 85% of resumes are now processed by an algorithm before a human being ever lays eyes on them. You aren't just competing against other people, you are competing against a black box. But here's the real danger. Warden AI notes that 55% of HR professionals admit they don't actually understand how their AI tools make decisions. So we've traded understanding for efficiency. We are like swimmers in a sea of data, letting the current take us wherever it wants. And as we talk often on this show and in AI for Everyone discussions, the way we move out of that swimmer phase is through education, through learning. But the problem gets more subtle. Pohl's report discusses what he calls, or they call, proxy variables. An AI might be told not to look at race or gender, but then it finds proxies, data points that correlate with those categories. It might look at your zip code, the specific vocabulary you use, or even your hobbies. If an algorithm notices that your top performers all visit a specific hobbyist website, it might start rejecting anyone who doesn't. So, if you are listening to this and looking for your next role, you might feel like the deck is stacked against you. But the first lesson is that you have a choice. You can learn to speak the language of the machine without losing your human soul. According to 2026 career study guides, if you're applying for a job someplace where they use AI algorithms, and that's, as we learned before, 85% of companies, your resume has to clear 2 hurdles. It must be parsable and it must be scoreable. First, the formatting. No, this is not the time for a creative, graphic-heavy Canva template. AI systems still struggle with tables and columns if they're not specifically made to their expectations. So you want to stick to a clean, single-column docx file. And you want to use standard headers like work experience and education, the things that are almost certainly going to be in the AI systems. If the machine can't read your file, you don't exist to it. It's that simple. Second, the content. We have to be intentional. You need to look at the job description and find the 10 to 15 keywords they repeat. Use them naturally in your bullets. But don't just list them. Provide evidence. And you could consider using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. AI in 2026 is getting better at seeing context, not just keywords. So instead of saying, I am a leader, write something like, I led a team of 12 to reduce project turnaround by 20%. Numbers are the universal language of the algorithm. But most importantly, you need what they call a parallel path. If 85% of resumes are stuck in a digital slush pile, you must find the 15% that go through to a human. So, networking isn't optional anymore. It's the only way to bypass the AI gatekeeper. Apply through the portal to stay compliant, but then try to find a human connection on LinkedIn. Ask for a conversation, not a referral. And agency has to be cultivated. Now, remember, agency is about moving from being a victim to being a dynamic part in whatever process you're working on. So in this case, it's going from being a target of the AI to being a director of your own career. Now, for the employers out there, what do you do? I mean, this time saving is essential, especially in big corporations and big companies. But we have to become what I call ethical skeptics when it comes to AI and tools. And so you have to decide your own boundaries and question the neutrality of every tool you use. In the Warden AI guide, Jeffrey Pohl suggests what he calls adverse impact analysis. And basically, it's an essential and regular health check for your recruitment system. You need to look at the outcomes. Is the AI consistently favoring one group? If it is, the tool is broken, no matter how much time it saves. But for you, the everyday user, whether you are hiring or looking for a job, the most important principle is agency and the human in the loop. AI is excellent at processing volume, but it's terrible at context. A machine might see a gap in employment for a parent returning to the workforce and mark it as a red flag. But a human can look at those same facts and see resilience in a fresh perspective. We must never let the final decision-making power rest solely with a model. We have to use the tool kind of to clear the brush, but we're the ones who must choose the path. So whether you're hiring or looking, got to figure out a way to make sure that person is seen. So ultimately, the risk of biased AI isn't just a legal problem. It's an existential threat to your brand. Once a candidate perceives your process as unfair, the trust is gone. And then those best candidates are going to go someplace else. And in 2026, trust is one of the main currencies that really, really matter. We have a choice. We can use these algorithms as a mirror reflecting our past mistakes back at us at scale. Or we can use them as a window, using tools like the Warden AI audit to see where our biases are and then consciously work to break that cycle. And if we understand it as someone looking for a job, we can better follow up and keep an eye on what's going on, because you might be the perfect fit for that job. And nothing says you can't figure out another way to try to connect with someone. So, are you hiring for who your company was or who it needs to be? Are you looking for a job as capably as you can in 2026, or are you depending on the old ways? This tech is definitely ready, but the responsibility stays with us. So audit your process, ask the hard questions, and do what you need to do to be seen. Because at the end of the day, the most important part of the AI for Everyone framework isn't the AI, it's the everyone. For more information on these frameworks and how you can level up your AI skills responsibly, visit hansoneducationservices.com or email me at hansoneducationservices@gmail.com. Talk to you next time.